Okay, good morning everyone again. I will start. Hope you can see the screen. Thank you for joining and being with us this morning. I am Federico Minozzi and I'm the Managing Director of EUROPARC. I'm very happy to have you all here today for our discussion and our exchange. I just wanted to introduce you also the rest of the team with us today, because I'm not doing this on my own. And as most of you know, running those events online requires a lot of support. And so please, Stefania, Teresa, Isa, and Emma will be with us and helping you and managing the chat and being on the shade and helping with the breakout rooms afterwards. And please feel free to get in touch also through the chat with them. And they might be waving. I don't see all of you here.
Good morning.
So,
good morning.
Just to start, this is an online event, as you know, but we have a plan for it. But to make it successful, we need your help and support. So please interact, take the use of this time and to share knowledge, contribute to the discussion, and be active. We wanted to make this really not an informative session, but more a really participatory workshop. So we have a plan for that, but it counts also on your support and help. So thanks for that. And so you know the technology and how to use, and we'll help you with this. If you have any questions, just write on chat. So just to make sure you're all there, if I start from the east of Europe, can you turn your microphone on and say hello? Is there anyone that's coming from the east? No? From the south of Europe?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi there.
Good morning.
And the center of Europe. Are there more noisy?
Good morning.
Buongiorno. I don't know, Brussels is in the center. Maybe yes.
I leave you to decide whether you feel center or not. In the west, from the west.
Hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I guess there is someone from the north still we haven't heard.
Hello, tere hommikust from Estonia.
Okay, you're surely the northeast. Okay, everyone. So just take the chance and don't be shy. And it's not that many of us in the room will manage this, but please feel free to connect and turn on your microphone when needed. You can raise your hands and you'll have opportunities to share your views and thoughts. So just to say a word on the fact that this is an event, this is part of our approach and strategy that we have developed for the coming years. And we really want to keep an approach investing on the skills and capacities. So raise the skills and knowledge of managers in particular, inspire for sure protected areas, innovate in terms of improving practice, and influence obviously then decision making and management, and obviously inform and share knowledge with the network and widely. So this is a bit the approach we're keeping, and we have a lot of objectives. I'm not sharing all the strategy, but just to say this is part of our approach, and this is the way we will conduct also the event. So just to guide through what we will be doing this morning, we will have a bit of context. Marco Cipriani from the European Commission, who's waving there, you might see him. He's been leading all the work on large carnivores for many years, was on top of the many other things he's doing in DG Environment. So he will be there with us this morning and present the policy perspective. And Katarina Maslin from Adelphi, who's coordinating the EU platform on coexistence between people and large carnivore, and involved in many projects on that subject across Europe. We will then have a participatory session, and this will be done on breakout rooms. So we'll break in different groups, and Emma will split us magically on those. And this will require your intervention, and you will be the key player in this session, and we'll look at protected areas needs and the possible actions to be developed. And then after this, we'll have a break. So don't worry, we'll have a break, and we will look into case studies, and we have 3 interesting case studies. So what is happening on the ground, and Valeria Salvatore from the Istituto di Ecologia Applicata, she's been involved in many projects, and when she is not involved on the field, she's writing another project. So there's plenty. I know she's super busy, and I want to thank her as everyone else for this. And Simone Angelucci and Antonio Antonucci from the Maiella National Park in Italy, in the Apennines, will bring us there. They've been working in the park with stakeholders for long on wolf and brown bear, and this is an interesting experience and approach. And then Guillermo Zamora from the Junta de Andalucía, where they've been running a project on the lynx, and they will present us, he will present us their experience. So I just really wanted to thank you all speakers for your time and support in running this event. Sometimes this happens at the end of the meeting. We just thank you in a rush, but just wanted to really thank you for your dedication and support for running this event. So back to you. I just wanted to know why did you choose to dedicate a bit of time to us today and attend this workshop. So if you could share your keywords, 1, 2, 3 max, you just need to connect. You can open this on your phone or on a new tab on your screen, and just connect to menti.com, and you need to write lesson code number 978218. You should see it should bring you somewhere where
Could you please leave the number from Menti?
sorry, yes. I'll say the net. I'll say the number again: 97978218. 978218. Maybe someone can write it on chat.
Yes, it's in the chat.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so words popping up, coexistence still at the top. And I see a lot of experience sharing, whether this is for solutions or for sharing your knowledge. This is really what we are looking for. So obviously solutions, protected areas, experiences, inspiration. So I hope we'll contribute to this, and maybe we can see it for later. So thanks for your thoughts on this, and keep them in mind while we run the workshop, because so to make sure you try to get what you wanted to have, it will be also up to you to share and make sure this happens. So come back to my presentation. Our objective for today is really to look at the needs, try to look and identify what are the needs that protected areas have for successful planning and implementation of coexistence measures. So we have somehow selected you as participants because we thought you really have the knowledge and the expertise, and we are not here to solve the issues today, but we want to identify them and see how we can support you for the future. So what role protected areas should play, and what solutions and action can we envisage to support protected areas. We will be discussing this, and this is the approach we will have this morning. And obviously then what actions we can develop. So without continuing in this, I will just leave the floor to Marco and Katarina to introduce their experience and their perspective and give us a bit of a context from a policy and European perspective. So Marco, you should have the power to share.
Thank
your
you.
screen.
Thank you, Federico. I will start by sharing my screen. Let me know, Federico, if everything is fine, if you can see it.
Yeah, it works. There is a black spot on top, but we still see all the screens, so that's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Let me start this short update on our policy on large carnivores by, haha, the PowerPoint is not going ahead. It's not moving. Let me take. Okay, now it's moving. So I would like to start by recalling the general architecture structure of the Habitats Directive, which is based on two complementary pillars. On the one side, you see the protection and management of designated sites, which then become special areas of conservation. And on the other side, the species protection provisions, which apply horizontally everywhere, inside the designated sites and outside. And the specific provisions will depend on where the habitat or the species is listed in which annex. Protected areas are concerned by both of these pillars, because for species protection, it's obvious, this applies everywhere. And protected areas in many cases actually overlap with sites designated under the Habitats Directive, and therefore can contribute directly to the objectives of the directive. And here you will see the implications of those provisions. And I would like to make a couple of examples of how the protected areas, national protected areas, can contribute to the implementation of these provisions. For example, let's take Annex 2 species, for which member states have designated sites and for which they have to establish conservation objectives and measures. you will see that here the protected areas contributed directly to the establishment and above all to the implementation of conservation measures, site-specific conservation measures, targeting those habitats and species for which the sites were designated. And they have a very important role in the protection of the sites, and in particular, in the appropriate assessments of plans and projects which might affect the site. As regards Annex 4, strict protection, you know, this is based on Article 12 of the directive, which prohibits killing, capture, deliberate disturbance, destruction or deterioration of breeding sites and resting sites of the species listed in Annex 4. But the Court of Justice, the European Court of Justice, has clarified many times that in order to apply these provisions, it is not sufficient just to transpose such prohibitions into national law. Member states have to implement proactive, concrete measures to make these prohibitions enforceable on the ground. And this is what many protected areas actually do on a daily basis. For example, when national parks establish specific restrictions on certain activities in certain areas, in certain periods, to protect some species in critical periods, well, that's exactly what is meant by these proactive prevention measures to apply on the ground Article 12 prohibitions. Another example is monitoring. Under the directives, member states have a duty to monitor conservation status of habitats and species listed by the directive and to regularly report to the Commission. And here again, protected areas have an important role, important experiences in monitoring habitats and species of EU interest. Another example from Italy, but you see that since last year in Italy, a new national scheme for wolf monitor has been set up. And here also the park rangers, the national protected areas have been providing a very important contribution on this, thanks to their experience on this subject.
Marco, sorry, are you moving the PowerPoint? Or?
Now.
Okay.
Yeah. I have mentioned the obligation for member states to achieve and maintain a favorable conservation status for the species listed in the annexes, and in particular for our large carnivores discussing today. So I would like to just recall the results of the latest reporting for the conservation status. As regards wolf, out of 39 assessments made by member states at their national biogeographic regional level, 18 of these assessments show a favorable conservation status, 19 unfavorable. But if we look at the trends of these overall status assessments, we see that basically almost all of them are improving or stable. So we can say that this species is on a path to recovery in Europe, but still not achieved a favorable conservation status everywhere. A less positive picture for bear. Here we see that about half of the assessments are favorable and half are unfavorable. But we have a majority of trends which are positive, which are improving, but still some deteriorating trends have also been reported by member states. And much less positive for lynx. Here we see that only a few of the assessments show a favorable status. The majority is still unfavorable, but there are some improving trends, but also deteriorating trends. So it's difficult to generalize. It's very, very variable situation depending on the member states and regions. I have mentioned those provisions, and That's the legal framework for our policy. And as you know, on both of those pillars, so site protection and species protection, the Commission has produced a number of guidance documents on which there are some recent updates. For example, for site protection, we have recently published the new methodological guidance on Article 6.3 and 6.4, that is to assess the possible implications of plans and projects on habitats. As regards species protections, last month, the Commission has adopted a new updated guidance on Article 12 and Article 16. This new guidance, which is available on our website in all languages, has not introduced any new rules, any new obligations. This is not possible for guidance, but it has produced additional clarifications, explanations, interpretations of the existing provisions, plus a number of information, advice, good practices for coexistence for all strictly protected species. That is the species listed in Annex 4. There is a specific annex on wolf, which can also be relevant for other large carnivore species. And this is the content of this annex on wolf. Different types of conflicts that are often associated with these species are presented. The measures to address such conflicts are recalled, as well as the possible funding sources to implement these measures. Then there are some examples and explanations on the use of derogations to strict protections under Article 16, and some recommendations on management of hybrids, of bold wolves, and on the role of species action plans. All these by presenting, by quoting the relevant rulings of the European Court of Justice. As regards the derogations, we have also tried to translate the text of Article 16 into a practical summary flowchart showing the three main conditions for member states to adopt a derogation. But for the details, I would invite you to refer to the text of the guidance. As regards the policy framework, this is obviously set by the EU biodiversity strategy, and we should see the conservation of large carnivores as a part of these wider policy goals and contributing directly to the targets of this biodiversity strategy for 2030, in particular to the targets related to species, and in particular these two targets, the no deterioration target and the improvement target, the 30% improvement target. The Commission has been discussing these in details with member states and stakeholders, and some guidance are being elaborated on this. As regards the financial framework, support from LIFE will continue to be available on our web pages under the EU platform. You can see, for example, information on ongoing LIFE projects. As you know, protected areas are very often involved in the implementation of these projects, which have provided important, valuable experiences for coexistence that can be replicated, generalized on a larger scale in member states. For example, by using the other instruments, like the Rural Development Fund, which can support both investment type of measures, but also recurrent cost, namely under agri-environmental measures, as well as advice, information, and technical support for the beneficiaries. Here, I would refer to these very useful guidance documents produced by the Secretariat of the EU platform, and which are available on our website. Another possibility for the member states is obviously to use their own state aid. And here, again, the Secretariat of the platform has produced some clarifications, explanations of these provisions, which are sometimes not so easy to understand. Member states can use the prioritized action frameworks to identify the measures, the priorities, and the financing needs, including for large carnivores and their coexistence. At the moment, 19 member states have finalized this step and have concluded and submitted to the Commission the final path for the period 2021-2027. And this is, of course, the most relevant section of the path for strictly protected species. All these aspects are summed up in a joint letter that was sent on 3 November by the Environment Commissioner and the Agriculture Commissioner to all member states, to the agriculture and environmental authorities. And this letter recalls the new species protection guidance adopted recently by the Commission. It recalls the available tools for member states to support coexist and actually invites them to make the best use of such opportunities. We consider that this letter sends a very strong, important policy message to member states, and we have made it available publicly on our website. You can see here the link. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Marco. Very interesting and inspiring, I say, and particularly useful to know this letter has come out. So might be useful to have some baseline to push on national level in all our networks and connections. Marco, before we move to Katarina, do you have a question that you want to ask the audience? So we're, instead of you having to answer difficult questions, do you have a question for the audience? They will reply afterwards.
I am always very interested in the practical experiences of the protected areas. I consider them to be really on the front line in the fight for the conservation and coexistence between all protected species and human activities. So I would like to ask, first of all, what's their feeling about the conservation of large carnivores and coexistence perspectives in the future, in the next few years? I mean, are they optimistic compared to, let's say, 10 years ago? How do they see the future perspectives in the next few years, let's say? And then what are the measures that they plan to implement in their specific protected areas? That would be very interesting for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. So I'll leave you to start writing on chat if you have comments, and we might pick up some reactions afterwards. So with this thought, I would like to pass the floor to Katarina, who will introduce us to the EU platform.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay and see my presentation? Great. Well, good morning from the Cevennes National Park where I live. I'm Katarina Marsden. I work for Adelphi, a consultancy based in Berlin, but I'm here in my role as managing the Secretariat of the EU Large Carnivore Platform. And I'm going to build a bit on what Marco has said to talk specifically about these types of stakeholder exchange platforms that have been established to try and reduce conflict around large carnivores, and see if this can be a model that's potentially of interest to you as park managers. The EU platform on coexistence between people and large carnivores was established in 2014. It followed several years of exchange between different stakeholder groups on the EU level, so kind of representatives of different stakeholder interests, who realized that although things like the Habitats Directive work well as a piece of legislation, it's difficult to implement if the stakeholders who are directly affected by the policies aren't involved in discussions around how to implement them. So the Commission and the members of the platform came together and agreed a mission to work together. It's written here and you can read it, but basically it's to try and minimize conflicts around large carnivores, but they also agreed ways of working together, that they would respect one another's opinions, that they would try and exchange on good practice, etc. Within the agreements, there is the mission itself, but there's also some key principles, and these are to work within the EU legal framework, i.e. to respect the Habitats Directive, to use that as a basis for discussions, to ensure the necessary knowledge base, so working on sound scientific evidence, recognizing socioeconomic and cultural considerations. Clearly this was important for the economic actors specifically to become involved, that large carnivores also have impacts, for example, on livestock breeding and other activities, and that needs to be recognized by all actors involved. To find solutions to conflicts through dialogue, so speaking together is recognized as very important. And then to engage in transboundary cooperation, so recognizing that different member states, different regions have different approaches, and it's helpful to speak about this. The platform also agreed ways of working. I won't go through that in detail, but it's basically that it's an open exchange, that they respect each other, they listen to each other, they try different good practices, and also importantly, they ensure that they can really take part in the work of the platform, that they have the capacity to do that. And this has been important for the work of the platform, to have this agreement from the start, that the platform members, that the Commission can go back to and to say that this is what our collaboration is based on. And this is something I think is a message to take away for generally for establishing these types of stakeholder platforms, that it's useful to have an agreement on how you want to work together from the start. Briefly, just the structure of the platform. There are 7 members currently. They're the landowners, European Landowners Organization, 2 hunting members, FACE and CIC. I think we have FACE with us today as well, the representative who is on the platform, Sabrina. We have IUCN, who's represented by the Large Carnivore Initiative for Europe, the Species Specialist Group on Large Carnivores. Valeria is here today with us as well. WWF, I think we have several people around in the meeting. And of course our hosts, EUROPARC Federation, and I didn't mention the reindeer herders from Finland and Sweden, clearly not an EU representative group, but where this is a specific issue. The platform is co-chaired between the European Landowners Organization and the European Commission. The Commission isn't actually a platform member, but supports the platform through this co-chairing and also through funding a secretariat. And that's where I come in. Adelphi is one of the 2 organizations that manages the secretariat, together with Callisto, a Greek NGO who's specialized in large carnivores. Our job as the secretariat is to support the platform activities, so a range of different activities that the platform members have identified as important for discussing coexistence. There's a range of communication activities, a newsletter, which you can all sign up to, a bulletin for an exchange between the platform members. And then there's the website, which I'd recommend that you have a look at. I'll send you the link afterwards, which we've built up over time together with the platform members as a kind of information source for a lot of different issues about large carnivores in comparison between different EU member states. So there's a range of FAQs, which can be useful, for example, if you're dealing often with fake news related to large carnivores, that you can refer back to the scientific evidence behind particular issues that come up often as fake news. There's a comparison between the management measures taken in different member states, and there's a kind of very full range of different case studies in different areas and different countries, which you can refer back to as well. Apart from the communication activities, we also organize meetings. So there's one kind of formal annual meeting in May, June, normally a work planning meeting early in the year. And then there's a range of regional workshops, which have been organized in various different member states, often on the, because members suggest there's a particular conflict that they want to look at, sometimes together with national parks, with EUROPARC as well. In the last couple of years, more online. And then finally, the other area of work is kind of gathering background information for the platform members, and there particularly there's been quite a bit of work that Marco referred to on the rural development financing, for example. The EU platform has worked well for exchanging information on the EU level and for kind of building up an information source on European activities. The members can work quite well together because it's on the European level, they can discuss their members' interests. What works less well is if there's a specific conflict on a specific location. For example, the platform organized a meeting in Romania where there was an ongoing conflict, and it's difficult to keep engaged with these particular regional conflicts. And for that reason, the EU platform members and the Commission and various others supported the idea of having pilot projects to establish regional large carnivore platforms. It was financed by the Parliament and supported by the Commission, and Valeria Salvatori is also here today who manages this project. Just to introduce you to the concept, I have a little video here which I'll try and play to you. Federico, if this doesn't work, maybe you can do it, but I think it should work from here. Just to let me know if not.
It gets very slow, and I don't hear the sound. I don't know if it's the same for others.
Okay.
Yes, we cannot hear the sound.
No, I think it doesn't work this way.
Right.
I don't know if you can try to share on.
Yeah, I'll try sharing it on
directly from
YouTube,
YouTube, but
and then if it doesn't work, I'll give up and send you the link. I don't know if the sound is going to work or not. Does that work?
No, because
no,
Katarina,
because this way it doesn't really work.
So whenever you share your screen to show a video, you specifically need to tell that you want to also share the sound. It's
Okay, sorry, I haven't set it up for that. Maybe I'll just continue the presentation, and if there's time, one of you can share it afterwards, or I just send the link so that people can
Yes,
look
please.
at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to show you that video just to kind of give an introduction to this, but I'll go through it, and then yeah, you can have a look afterwards. So the idea of the regional large carnivores, as I said, it was that you could have something similar to the EU large carnivore platform model on a regional or local level, and try to deal with a specific conflict in different locations. And so 2 pilot projects have been established across the EU. These are the locations of the different regional platforms. The first ones were established in Romania, Harghita, which dealt specifically with bear management and conflict around monitoring reliability. In Grosseto, Italy, around wolf population increase causing damages to livestock. And Iberian in Spain, which was related to livestock again, but in this case more to cattle. Those were the first 3 platforms. In the second contract, the platforms were in Lüneburger Heath in Germany, again, extensive livestock and conflict over the potential use of derogations. In Sweden, it's a slightly different concept where the project is supporting the establishment of the Swedish wolf management plan, and then moving more towards the local level to discuss also with local stakeholders. And finally, in France, in Breakout, the one that I'm most involved with, which is looking at issues related to the management of livestock, guarding dogs, and other land users, in particular tourism. And we also have with us here today Manon from the Regional National Park in Breakout, who can tell you more about that in the breakout groups, because Breakout has really done a lot of background work on this and has been engaged with this issue for many, many years. To say a little bit about how the project's designed, it's slightly different from the EU platform, although it's based on a similar concept of kind of coming up with an agreement between different stakeholder interests, and then using that as a basis for discussions to understand one another's positions better. But what was very important from the start of this project was that there was the project team established by Valeria that brought in a range of different experts, and importantly, really skilled facilitators who are used to working on conflictual issues and can support a discussion between different interest groups. And since we were kind of coming in from externally to many of these areas, it was important to establish why we were doing this and our role compared with the role of different stakeholders. So we had a number of principles which we were kind of clear about from the start, that we wanted to be neutral, that we wanted to treat everyone equally, we wanted to be transparent, and there's and confidentiality, that people could speak openly in the meetings. So it was kind of to establish this basis of a very open discussion, a facilitated discussion between different interest groups, that people had a safe space where they could discuss, where they could share their problems, and they could approach it almost more on a more personal level to say how it affected them as a person, and really kind of the stakeholders wouldn't use that against one another during this space, even if they generally have different and opposing views. This is the approach that we used, that we had a kind of four-phase approach where we started off by carrying out interviews to understand the situation, wrote a background report. In the second stage, we selected facilitators and started having meetings with a small group. So in the case of Breakout, for example, it was with the park team, where we had a lot of discussions about how exactly we wanted to carry out this process, how we built on the existing work, and kind of who needed to be involved on what scale. And finally, the implementation, where we carry out a range of different meetings. It's varied between the different regional platforms, but in the first three, it was generally about 6 over a space of 6 months. The second ones have been, the COVID has changed a bit the process we've been using, but it's been kind of a mix of online and real meetings with different groups of interests. And importantly, in this last stage, there's been a process to agree on concrete actions that the members of the platforms can carry out together. That's a difference with the EU platform, that a main aim of the regional platforms project has been to agree these real actions that are financed by the project and can be carried out by the stakeholders together. And then a process of feedback and review to learn from this. Finally, just to say a little bit about how the EU platform and the regional platforms work together, there needs to be a kind of mutual feedback between the two. We have regular exchanges at the EU platform plenary meeting, where regional platforms come and present what they've been doing. Also, often when the regional platforms have agreed their actions that they want to carry out together, they organize a meeting where the platform has been meeting, and invite the EU platform members as well. And we currently at the Secretariat of the EU platform are developing a toolkit for the establishment of regional platforms, where we want to consider what counts as a platform. So what do we really mean by a stakeholder platform? Is it just, is it exchange, or is it policy decisions? What exactly does a platform mean? Where are platforms helpful and where should they be avoided? So are there specific occasions, for example, where the conflict is really deep and personal, where we shouldn't be setting up such a platform? We've experienced that with the regional platforms. There are areas where it's easier and areas where it's more difficult. And then how to run the dialogue process, a step-by-step approach to preparing, to understanding the context, to identifying the right facilitator, running the process, and evaluating its success. So this is something that we would be keen to discuss with you as EUROPARC members next year, when we have a draft of this toolkit, and potentially we could test it with some of you. So this is where you can find all the information on the EU platform. I'll also send it to you in the chat afterwards. As I said, there's a lot of information there, so please use it, and please sign up for the platform newsletter. Thank you.
Thank you, Katarina. Thank you very much. And yes, take advantage of the resources made available in the platform, because there's really a lot of material that's been collected over the years on different topics, and that's quite relevant. Katarina, do you have a question for the audience?
Yes, so I would like to ask you as park managers or as people working in parks, do you think that you are in a good position to set up such stakeholder platforms such as the regional platforms that I've been describing? Do you consider yourselves as stakeholders yourselves, or do you think you are in a kind of neutral enough position that you can organize these dialogue processes?
That's quite a good question, and see and how we can manage this. So I would like to invite two of the audience who want to react to the two questions, the one made by Marco before and Katarina now. Anyone has a burning reaction or comment? Please don't be shy, just. Also the case study speakers. So your feeling, one was more on the feeling, on coexistence and measures for the future. I see a raised hand from Kaya. Please, Kaya.
Hello, everybody again. Thank you for the presentators. There were very good information coming from these. And I myself have been also following these regional platforms, and I think it is a really very good possibility in these areas where the conflict is quite high, and there should come somebody from, how to say, Brussels to help to solve the problem. Of course, in the ground we can see that the main key is in this local area, but sometimes it is needed to bring somebody from the highest level to the place to explain the situation. And even if we can't get the result very quickly, always the conflict solving is very complicated, and it takes time. And I've seen with my own eyes that in these areas the things have been in future and also step by step positive. So I think it is very important that this platform can exist. And always I had a question how the protected areas can support this process. And thank you for this seminar. I've got now the point that actually protected areas are like important areas, but we need also the green corridors between the protected areas for the large carnivores. Protected areas are very important, but these animals need much more large areas than our protected areas are at the moment, and to really give them chance to survive, we need to plan good green corridors for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. Thank you for your inputs. Yes, it seems clear protected areas can have a role in the platform development. Anyone else wants to join in, make a comment or react?
Yes, hi, I'm Carmen and I'm from Romania. I was wondering if Katarina can tell me if this regional platform in Romania, in Harghita, is led by the local authorities or NGOs, or is a consortium? Because I don't know about this local platform.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, Katarina can probably answer.
Yeah. I mean, Valeria can probably also say more on it, but it's it was the local council who was quite we're talking about the Harghita platform, Valeria, the local council who was very involved in establishing it, and also a local NGO, which I think is Podni, I don't know the name exactly, Valeria.
It's Pohani Hava.
Pogani Havash, I see.
So it's largely a consortium with them as the local partner, and then Valeria was also involved in going there and helping to establish it, and then with the local council and local hunters particularly were also quite involved in setting it up. So really a group of different actors.
Yeah, because actually in the president of the city council is one of the major no large carnivores, let's say, and is promoting like hunting as the only solution for solving the coexistence problems in the area. And I was wondering if it's only him or there are also NGOs involved. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I would stop it right now, but I think it's something we can discuss separately or afterwards or in chat directly. I'm not so much involved into this. I know there are challenges, and I don't want to open too much or the debate on this specific case, but yes, maybe Valeria and Carmen and Katarina can clarify things. Yes, we know the challenge in that area. We are aware. So I'll encourage you to, if you have comments to the two questions or ideas, or keep them in mind for the discussion that's coming up. And I'll reshare my screen. So what will happen right now is we will start the breakout rooms. So where we'll have more active discussion, and encourage you to turn, when you will go into the breakout, to turn your microphone on and really interact and take the chance to discuss. Actually, we'll make 3 groups because the number are a bit lower than initially thought. And we are a bit late, so maybe we'll extend the groups of 10 minutes, but we'll have a break after the end of the meeting, the breakout groups. So you'll have about 30 minutes for discussion, and then you have a break, and you will return in plenary. So there's 10-15 minutes break afterwards. So in case the discussion is hot, you can continue to the breakout rooms, but be careful you use your break into that. So how it works, you will be magically moved into the separate rooms, and there will be someone facilitating and helping to facilitate the discussion. There will be a Jamboard. It's a pinboard. You need to access it online, and now Emma will put, or someone else on the chat, the link to that board. You just need to scroll on top here using the arrow to your group name. So there are 3 groups named with large carnivore, and you find your one and join that. And you will use the sticky notes that you find here on your left on the screen to just write your thoughts and pin them under the topics. The topics we will be discussing are the challenges and needs for protected areas in addressing coexistence, and possible actions and solutions. As I guess this will come up, I think, and it's relevant, we will have space also to collect ideas and thoughts from your perspective on what are the stakeholders' challenges and needs they are facing. So please throw your ideas and dig a bit the questions. Don't stop at the surface. We don't need to know we need money or we need knowledge, but we need to understand a bit more what are the concrete actions that then we can develop together for the future. So yeah, I'll give you now, I don't know if you have the link to the room, to the Jamboard.
Yes, the link is in the chat. Yeah. Should I open the
Yeah,
rooms?
yeah, please
Yeah,
open the
okay.
rooms.
Hi. Hello, everybody. We are going to show you this presentation about the human Iberian lynx conflict, the challenge of a peaceful coexistence. And we tried to make it very short, and we are facing the several problems in the coexistence with humans in the last years with the Iberian lynx, and we have developed a series of different attacks, try to mitigate to collect all of them and to give an ideal view of what the mitigation of conflict should be, and what we need to mitigate the conflict. So, as you probably know, the Iberian lynx has suffered an incredibly big increase in the last year, since 2002, when we began working with the species. It was almost extinct, and only two very isolated populations, and not totaling less than 100 individuals in a couple of very protected areas in southern Spain. You see here in blue the patches where the Iberian lynx was relicted in 2002. These areas were of low human presence, and it was supposed to be a species that didn't cause a conflict with humans. But you can see the spreading of the population has taken place mainly in human-dominated landscape. So in the last decade, every time more and more, the conflict has been present, and the Iberian lynx is suffering a real persecution because of that, because the conflict is there, and managing or mitigating the conflict is very difficult. So in this current geographical context, we find two black points. That is, there is an extensive sheep farming that is not working like in the past with the preventive measures that they usually had in the past when wolves and lynx lived in the areas. And also there are many places where poultry farms are disseminated in farmhouses in the middle of the country, in the middle of the Iberian lynx home ranges. So the threats that we find is that if not managed, the conflict provokes rejection against the species, and maybe the cause of retaliation. Actually, it is a big cause of retaliation nowadays. So the goals we have in managing this conflict is to first get a peaceful coexistence between local people and the Iberian lynx, and face the conflict and offer an answer to all the affected people. an answer in the possibilities of the administration. So managing the conflict, we try to avoid the conflict become a problem, of course, a problem of conservation for the species, and we have identified these 5 factors that are related to the conflict, that are economic interests, many social aspects like the feeling of exclusion of local communities, the cultural differences among the different areas, some political factors related with decision making, with the loss of autonomy and bureaucracy. These are grouped together, but they are not working in all of them in everywhere. But these are points that we have found in our case study. Some environmental factors like the coexistence between people and wildlife, and this is a good point of mainly regarded to the awareness of local communities, but not only the local community, but also the authorities. And there are also, of course, external factors that are affecting the conflict, and many times are driving the conflict to some different destinations. That's like public opinion, mass media, and social networks. So when facing the problem, trying to solve or to work in solving the problem, we have found some hindrances, and the abandonment of preventive measures, like I told you before, extensive livestock with no protection is every time more and more found in the field, and that's something we have to work with, and it's not easy because the new farmers are used to working that way, and they say, well, I have always done that, but the old preventive measures have been forgotten. And also we find that most of the time there are not working protocols, clear protocols or uniform protocols among the all the implied parties, and that's a problem for most of the cases. So what do local authorities need to mitigate the conflict? We have identified 5 different steps for in our work. Most of these steps is what we do when we are able to work in the mitigation of the conflict. The first step is all those prevention. Prevention is crucial for us. It is very important to be prepared and to make as much as possible to prevent the attacks of the Iberian lynx in our case. So first of all, we try to do in all the areas, of course, in the reintroduction areas, but also in the areas with the natural spreading of the species get for the first time. We try to make an inventory of farms potentially suffering attacks of the Iberian lynx. Once we identify those more likely to suffer the attacks, we work on implementing preventing preventive measures, like fixing hen coops, for example, or sheep farms trying to use structures, avoiding the attack of the lynx. The design of clear protocols and uniform protocols among all the administrations to act when an attack takes place, and another kind of measures depending on the particular context of every area. So when we identify those farms, we identify those like this hen coop that it's very easy to get in by a lynx. In the second step, we try to make with hen coops, for example, we try to make them lynx proof. But there are also many different problems related to the legality of most of the hen coops that there are spread in the field, and we try to work, but we also ask for the responsibility of the farmers, that it's something difficult sometimes, and well, in extensive sheep farms, we try to implement measures to get the lambs inside electric fences, mainly where they are very small. That it's the period when the Iberian lynx most attack the lambs, and a different pack of other measures to try to prevent the attacks. The second step is to contact with affected people. What our recommendations is to work as quick as possible. The answer must be very quick, and to practice an active hearing of people. Most of the time, they want to be heard, and they want to feel that they want to feel your empathy. So that's very important to hear them, to explain them what the difficulties are, and that, but we are in the same side, and we are going to try to work to solve and mitigate the problem. The third step in when an attack takes place is measures taken in situ. So first of all, we make an ocular inspection. We take a lot of pictures of the attack, georeferencing and sample taking. We always install camera traps because, well, lynx usually most of the times they come back because they kill more prey than they can eat in a single time, so they will come back. So camera traps are very important for us to identify the responsible of the attack. And also an important point is the documentation and filling forms by the authorities. And well, many different pictures. We try to take pictures of all the lessons we find, and in the camera traps we can see if the animal coming to eat is an Iberian lynx or it's another species, because this is also a difficulty that we work on the Iberian lynx. We work to avoid conflict with Iberian lynx, but if we find like the responsible has been a fox or feral dogs, people don't get the solution. So it is only it is also an approach that we focus on a species, but it's a kind of problem sometimes when they find that then it has not been a lynx, but they want to be repaired, and it's difficult. And the fourth step is the laboratory analysis. Of course, in order to recognize the attacker. With the lesions in the skin and in the carcasses, and also makes by molecular approaches. We tried in every cases where there are doubts of the responsibility of the attacker. We try to find it clearly. And the fifth step, the last one, is writing the final report. And with all of this information, is the last step is the compensation of damages to the affected people, and that's ideally what the protocol and the steps we take in all the cases and in all the moments. We have had in the past some periods when we could develop all these steps, but there are periods of time that there are no funds to work on this, and it's been difficult, but we hope it is stable in the future. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guillermo, for your interesting points and the perspective, both from a regional authority and really working on the field. That's quite relevant, and with a different species also that we didn't discuss today before. So thanks a lot for all your inputs, and I see there have been some questions on the chat. Maybe, I don't know, Valeria, you want to come back on some of the points, and happy to have afterwards Simone and Guillermo, if you have any comment to add to what has been discussed.
Yes, thank you, Federico. I will reply to the questions posed by Stefania. How did we involve the farmers? In all the places where we've been working, particularly for the participatory processes under the contract with the European Commission, we needed to identify someone who knew a little bit the area. Okay. In the national parks, usually the national park holds relationship, as Simone has shown us. They hold relationship with the farmers. They know them because they check the damages. In the other areas, we first of all made few visits to the area, and started interviewing all the people that we were told were interested. So we started with the relevant authority, and we asked them, who do you think we should contact? And then through contacts of people that we might know in the area, we got in touch with more and more people. And we tried to meet them individually first, or in group, for example, I see that Nicolas Gonzalez from Avila is here. He's one of our hosts in the platform. They arranged a meeting with the farmers of the local agricultural associations. So I had a meeting with the farmers there. And then I asked, we asked both the agricultural association, but also the individual farmers to come. In some cases, we offered to reimburse travel costs, but because we were working with people locally, most of them didn't want any reimbursement. So this is, we tried to balance, the presence of the agricultural association and the farmers, but the farmers come if they see that, their time is not wasted, of course, because they have a lot of things to do. So you have somehow to commit that, that you care and you value their work.
Thanks, Valeria. Simone, there were a couple of points for you on the budget for prevention and compensation, if the park has a budget for that, and how much?
We have an ordinary budget for compensation of damages that is more or less 40,000 euros on the ordinary expenses of the park, 40,000 per year, and then another little budget for prevention measures that is a project with our farmers. We have a project that involves 120 farmers in the park, more or less all the farmers we have, for another 20,000 euros per year, covering the expenses for the fences, for 50% of reimbursement of sanitary expenses, veterinary expenses for the animals that are on grazing lands, and other initiative for collaborating with the farmers. And then life project, if we have some measure for them, depends on the projects.
Thank you. And there was a question also on wolves approaching human settlements. How do you handle those? This might be a difficult one.
Yeah, it depends a lot from the context, from the situation, from the scenario we have. Usually we have an emergency team with me, veterinarian, Antonio, the biologist, and some other colleagues. We make an intensive monitoring of the scenario. We check the animal, how his behavior inside the urban center, and if it's possible, we capture him and put a radio collar to make an intensive monitoring of the movement behavior of the animal, just to understand. Sometimes our dispersal animal with also with the clinical problems, for example, mange, because they are ecologically in some difficulty. So sometimes we also take them in enclosure from some days and then release. And in other cases, they disappeared after some weeks. So it depends on the situation. What we usually do is removing the anthropogenic source of food if we are able to recognize this kind of situation, but is not for every situation easy.
Yes, thank you. Wondering if there is anyone else wanting to add or comment on the things that we have heard.
I think there was another question for Simone that Stefania actually posted. How do you manage possible conflicts among use of prevention measures with tourism?
Okay, we have basically no problems with the fences, absolutely, because our fences are just night fences, night for the sheepfold in the night. These fences are used to make an enclosure for the nighttime, and we have not so many farmers that use long distance. I don't know, extension of fences in the grazing areas. So no problem with the fences, and basically no problem also with the dogs, because our dogs are selected by our farmers also to be not aggressive with people. They are able to make work in a pack situation, in a pack dynamic, but we have no cases of aggression, really poor cases of aggression. And now in these last years, our farmers, some of farmers that collaborate with us are also selecting dogs for they are efficient with the protection, but also taking a look of this aspect. So the less aggressivity to people. So really, we don't have great problems with this kind of issue.
Thank you, Simone. Teresa was asking for Guillermo if you pay compensation when attacks are attributed to a fox or a different animal that's not the lynx.
No, we don't. So that's a problem, because even sometimes it is very clear that it's not a lynx, but the people try to fight to convince you that it has been a lynx, and it doesn't matter if you present the results of the laboratory or the pictures of the fox eating the lamb, or even the own dogs of a farmer we have found in one time, but they are going to say that you are lying, and it has been a lynx, he saw a lynx, and well, it's sometimes tricky, and the compensation should be, in my opinion, considered in a wider way, that not only in the specific level, but well, up to now we only pay if there is it has been a lynx.
Okay, thank you. I have a question, but maybe others have one or comments. Do you pay money, or do you give back animals? I know this is a practice in some cases. This is both for Guillermo and Simone. I guess Guillermo, you said money.
Yeah, but sometimes we give animals. We give back animals. We buy animals depending on the time of the period of time, because we have had different projects of working in compensation, but so both we have made both things.
Okay. Unless there is any final comment, I'm happy to come to conclusions. And I just wanted to invite then maybe Katarina and Marco to say final comments also from their perspective on what they've heard today, and if any further input or comments. I don't know if Marco is still there. Katarina, if you want to join in.
Yes, Federico, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It was very, very interesting to hear all these experiences and proposals and situations in the different parts of Europe, in the different protected areas. I think we have a very challenging work ahead of us if we want to ensure and improve coexistence with large carnivores in Europe. But I'm personally optimistic, and I think it is a possible task, even if it is dangerous, even if it is difficult. I will again invite all the stakeholders, all the relevant authorities to make the best use of all the available tools that I have mentioned in my presentations, being aware that there are difficulties and obstacles on that. All the funds, instruments that I have mentioned can also fund very different things, other activities. You know that there are competing interests, competing challenges, and this is something you have to deal with. It's not easy, but it's an important task for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Katarina, I don't know if you have any.
I don't have much to add to what Marco said, but just to say it's been very interesting, and there's obviously a lot of experience gathered from the park's point of view. So it's very interesting for us to have this feedback as well. And I hope we can work further on a sort of toolkit and a way of sharing experience between those people who are dealing with large carnivore coexistence issues on a daily basis. I think it's very useful for the EU platform members to hear back from you.
Thank you, Katarina. And a couple of comments from my side. For sure, I'm optimistic we are for the future of the parks. It's work as well. Clearly see a role for the parks in Europe for the future. And this is the case for parks that have been working with large carnivores over the years. And I think they are working for nature, but more and more with people. And this is part of the challenge and crucial planning for sure. And in this sense, I think parks play a role for preventing measures, for compensation, as you have heard. I think for incentivizing preventive measures being applied and different management of livestock, and to build dialogue. I'm convinced that parks have a key role. They are not fully independent because they have legal priorities and objectives and commitments, but they have a role working with stakeholders, and for this is important to consider. And thinking of the future in terms of actions, yeah, we have collected a lot of inputs from all of you today. For sure, I think we need to value the knowledge, existing knowledge that has been developed over the years from some of you, through the platform, the case studies, the good practices that have been developed, and share those. I think we can develop other events that are more knowledge sharing or training for protected area managers in this sense for the future. And for sure, connected a bit with what Katarina said about the development of a toolkit, we can help developing guidelines or somehow recommendations for protected areas in terms of how it can be useful to develop dialogue and find solutions linked with experiences that have been developed over the years through many projects and activities. So with this, I just want to thank you all again. And well, we are almost on time. And yes, have a good afternoon and a good weekend. Yeah, speak to you soon, and we'll keep you updated on the news and stay in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.